This episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
I'm Jason Clouse. And over the course of my life, I've done a lot of different things, and I've worn a lot of different hats. But this may be my greatest endeavor yet. On this show, we are going to focus on life. We are going to focus on the basic fundamentals. We are going to focus on the silver lining. Because no matter what happens, no matter what is thrown our way, there is a silver lining. There is a lesson to be learned. Sometimes we just have to look a little bit harder, a little bit deeper for it. That's what this show is all about. Sometimes it's going to be rough, sometimes it's going to be raw, sometimes it may be hard to listen to, but it's something that you need to hear. This just got real.
And now, Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network presents its flagship show, the Clouse the Heart Podcast. Here is your host, Jason Clouse.
And we welcome you to the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network. This is the Clouse to the Heart Podcast. I am Jason Clouse. We certainly appreciate you tuning in here. We are doing this as another more or less impromptu live stream. We're not across all of our platforms. I've elected not to go live over YouTube here tonight, because I'm going to put the post-produced version of the show on YouTube. So, but we are live streaming this across Riverside.fm and, of course, the PFC Entertainment Network Facebook page. The live chat is open, and on there right now is a link if you would like to be a part of the show, if you want to be a guest on the show. You hit that link. You go through a couple of the hurdles just to make sure that you are indeed human, and it will put you into a virtual waiting room. We're going to talk about something. This is actually going to be a two-parter, because what winds up happening every so often is I will get a meme or something of a list that is sent to me from somebody who either listens to the show or knows me on at least one level, knows how I kind of operate or present myself in something like this. Because make no mistake, what you get on both sides of the coin are pretty much the same. You know, just in this endeavor, the volume gets turned up a little bit, but fundamentally, my approach, my feelings, my thoughts, my opinions really do not waver. And I realize that a lot of my approach can be deemed outdated. And I get that. Totally understand that. My argument would be that part of the problem, and when people talk about the disintegration of our society as a whole, from the inside out, I can pinpoint different aspects of why things are the way they are and recognize the fact that The individuals who conduct themselves in such a manner either didn't pay attention or just were not fundamentally given the opportunity to learn the fundamentals of life. What is fundamentally right and wrong? The right way to handle things, the wrong way to handle things. Now, that's not to say that they are going to, they're going to find themselves in situations and environments that are far beyond their control. And this is where survival mode comes into play. It's not going to be the same kind of mentality. It's not going to be the same kind of anything as somebody who had a quote unquote better upbringing or more opportunities to flourish. I get all that. It's very individualized. But there are some things that you just know as a decent human being that there is still such a thing as black and white. There is still such a thing as right and wrong. And those people who put so much stock into that gray area, I have found, just based in conversations that I've had, it's not across the board either, but a lot of times those who are living exclusively in that gray area, they're the ones who are experiencing the most disarray within their lives. Things just are not firing on all cylinders. There's always something going on that is rattling them, derailing them, just really wreaking havoc. But when you take a step back and you look at everything as a whole, and you're not able to kind of separate the individual pieces that are making this conglomerate of bullshit, it can be overwhelming. Totally understand that. But if you were to actually, it could be the smallest thing. You could take that, you could analyze it, you can figure out why this isn't working. Can you go back to basics with this? Is this really, in reality, a simple yes or no type of scenario? Plan A, plan B, whatever you want to call it here. Some decisions are going to be harder than others. I have talked about it ad nauseum. Doesn't matter what realm of life we're talking about here. But I have also, that's me playing devil's advocate here. That is damn near, as a sidebar, that is damn near a perfect cup of coffee. So let me get this set up real quick. Let me set the table for the show, for the topic. And again, this is going to be a two-parter because a good friend of mine named Eric sent me this meme list. He's much like he's done with previous topics. He's like, do something with this. And I read the title and it had my attention. And then, I'm looking at that. I mean, there's a lot of words, you know what I mean? So when you're looking at it, you're like, holy shit, that's a lot to read. So I was kind of skimming through it. I wasn't reading every single line by any stretch of the imagination. But I was skimming and I came across a couple of them. I'm like, okay, this has my attention. So some of these, purposely, because I knew I was going to do this for the show. I just wasn't sure. I didn't know I was going to be doing a live stream of it at when I read this, you know. What I did know, I was like, damn, this is no doubt a two-parter. So we're going to do part one here tonight or this week, if you're listening after the fact on the RSS feed, iTunes and Spotify and all that. And then next week we'll tackle the second part. I do have a guest on here, and again, if you want to be a part of the conversation, the link is in the live chat on So tonight we're going to talk about the brutal truth. These are sayings that could be brutally honest, but need to be heard. At least one person needs to hear these. Now, a couple of these, like I said, I previewed, I looked at it, I'm like, oh, damn. this unto itself could be its own topic. So I can see why Eric passed this along to me. And I feel like I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. Oh, Lori, you've got jokes. Yeah, work was great. So sorry that you missed it. Oh, okay. Look, nobody likes a smart ass, is all I'm saying. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, Sean. You're on the, you must have clicked the wrong show, my friend. This is the flagship show. And apparently if you call into the show, there's going to be some weird ass echo. So just be aware of that. As long as I'm coming through okay, you know, that's I can work on everything else in post. All right. 20 scenes that are brutally honest, but need to be heard. Here's the start of part one. To become a better you, getting used to saying goodbye should become a thing. Now, right out of the gate, this was the first one I read. I'm like, well, wrote the book. This is what gets people caught up more than anything when they are looking to make a significant change in any realm of life. They are so worried about how their actions are going to affect other people. And it doesn't matter. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. Let me back up. It does matter what the nature of the relationship is. It does play a hand in it. I get that. I understand it. But I am also somebody that while I do understand that, and I do have a tremendous amount of respect for having that kind of thought process, but here's my thing. If you were in the mindset that some change had to happen to begin with, somewhere in your subconscious, it was setting you up or setting the wheels in motion for you to start making some pretty damn tough choices in an effort to become the best version of you, or a better version of you at bare minimum. Because something within your day-to-day or your fundamental existence isn't jiving. Something isn't firing on all cylinders. We have one life to live. And every so often during the course of our lives, we are reminded in a very harsh and sometimes unexpectedly cruel way of how fragile life is. We get these reminders with the passing of every single person that we care about or respect or like or love on some level. Their number got pulled. How many more numbers are going to be pulled before it's yours? So it just begs the question. How much more time are you going to allow to pass before you start taking what little time we all have left? We are all on borrowed time. To start dedicating that in some level, on some degree, on you. Because while we do everything that we can to make sure everybody else is good, everybody else is happy, everybody else is taken care of, by the time there's any time left to focus on us, our gas tanks are damn near on empty. And that is no way to live. And I'm not going to sit here for one single second and tell you that any kind of significant change to improve your situation or to improve your quality of life or to improve your level of happiness, it ain't going to be easy. You're going to have to get used to eating shit burgers for a minute. But look, I've done it, man. I lit a stick of dynamite and threw it in the middle of everything and just blew everything up. And no, it wasn't easy. But at no point, because I knew what I needed to do. I knew to find some degree of happiness that it just wasn't hadn't happened. And a lot of that soul searching comes to the realization I am not an easy individual. But I'm also not impossible either. The course of action that I was on wasn't the one that was going to lead me to a life that I wanted, I was happy with. And I knew, embarking on anything like that, I was going to lose a lot of people along the way. And I have. Some severed ties with me and vice versa. But here's my thing about it. And while it is unfortunate. And yeah, in some cases it does suck. I'm talking about, friendships I had for 25 plus years. It's just a shame they're not going to sit there in the front row and watch me shine when my time comes, and make no fucking mistake about it. My time is coming. Actually, my time is now. No John Cena. Don't make a John Cena joke, Eric Cherry. If you're still on this motherfucker, don't even do it. It just kind of fell out like that. You're going to have to get used to saying goodbye to some people, unfortunately. But I look at it as we embark on where we're supposed to be. along the lines are the people that are supposed to be with you when that time comes. The wrong ones will fall off and the right ones will gravitate. And when you get to your promised land, when you get to your goal, those people who are surrounding you are the ones that are supposed to be there for the right and genuine reasons, without any other ulterior motive other than they care about you on some level and they wanted to see you succeed. Period. Number 2, you are what you do, not what you promise you'll do. As soon as that happened, 15 heads popped up in my mind. 15 people. Let me read that again. You are not what you do. Oh, let me rephrase that. My bad. I'm so fucked up over this. You are what you do, not what you promise you'll do. I will reiterate several times throughout the course of this fine broadcast, that is damn near a perfect cup of coffee. Perfect mixture of this, that, and the other thing. I'm so it's very good. I have a feeling that many of these I'm going to be able to take back to the fact of we are as good as our word. Actions are important too. They really do go hand in hand. But like, I'm a words guy. And if I can't take somebody at their word, I don't have a whole hell of a lot more for them. Like they just exist. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to put a tremendous amount of stock into anything. And I realize that's harsh. And you don't got to tell me that. I already know that. But at the same time, I have also made a decision as to how much of my time am I going to dedicate to this, that, or the other thing, and that's a big one with me. I can't take you at your word. I just can't. So when somebody promises me something, like when they preface it by "I promise I'll ... you best damn well believe you have my attention and a level of expectation that that's going to come into fruition, or as close to it as humanly possible. When it is, no, look, shit happens. I'm not like a one and done guy on everything. I understand things pop up and things happen that, throw wrenches in the plans and the works. Believe me, it happens all the time. I could have the best laid plans, and it's one little thing that just sets a snowball effect and just disrupts everything. But I'm here to tell you, like, if somebody promises me something, like, I put a lot of stock in that, and I guess it's more or less a baseball thing. You get 3 strikes and you're out. Every once in a while they'll foul one off. Not very often though. And in turn, if I promise somebody something, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that comes to fruition. that I do follow through. Because I don't want to be somebody that's labeled as, you can't count on them, or you can't this, or you can't that. If I can't do it as originally planned, I'm going to do everything I can to come up with a plan B, C, D, and E if necessary. Like, we're going to find a way, to make the shit happen. Let me go ahead and just throw this one up here just for context. Yes, Eric Cherry, I did know you had a John Cena joke in your head right then. Beat you to the punch. So, let this be the first example of why validity of your words, of how you communicate, is so goddamn important in any relationship, in any partnership, in any friendship, anything ship. This one's going to sting for a few of you. Number 3, no one will realize your value until your absence is felt. Who hasn't come across that scenario at least once in their lifetime? Some more than others. And then what winds up happening a lot of times? This is a sidebar. This could be its own episode. And I feel like I could assemble a panel. 3 men, 3 women. Then have what, like the ones that automatically come to mind. And that would be just the most intriguing conversation. No one will realize your value until your absence is felt. And you can sit there if, there's one of 2 ways that people generally handle this type of thing when the trajectory is going towards a split or a separation or whatever the case may be that results in you leaving the situation, the environment, the relationship, whatever the case may be here. It is only at that time that people really realize, holy hell, I done messed this one up. This person did this so well, and now without them there, I don't have this, I don't have that. Everything is in disarray. In a lot of cases, that individual will do everything they can in order to bring them back into the fold or into the relationship, mend the fences, make things work. Then there's the further extreme side of that, where it takes somebody passing away before we realize exactly what they meant to us. It happens every single time. It happens every single day somewhere in the world. There is a loss, and it is at that moment that the grieving have a full and clear understanding as to what that person meant to their lives. Why do we wait until after the fact before we start showing our appreciation for these people in our lives who mean something to us for whatever reason? That's why, funerals are a funny thing to me, man. It frustrates me because you hear the people stand up and talk. You hear You overhear the conversations happening around you, and a lot of times what you hear is something along the lines of, I wish I would have told him or her this, or I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have, could have, should have, blah, 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 fucking blah. If it was that fucking important to you, you probably would have done it before this, right? When, you know, when you bring it back a little bit, just merely severing ties with somebody that you have known for any stretch of any length of time, any, you know, if it's a meaningful friendship or relationship or what have you, you know, when there's that separation, that's when it's on full display just how often or how much we took each other for granted, you know. And that's too bad. But it also goes along the lines of, you know, in some aspects, and I say this all the time, and I get a variety of reactions from appalled to applauded. Sometimes the trash just, it takes itself out. You didn't have to do jack shit other than focus and work towards whatever it is that you're working towards, and just like I said, when you get to your place, the right ones are going to be there, and the wrong ones will have fallen off in some way or the other, either by your hand, their hand, or just that's the way the road took you. Don't fight for someone to love you. Fight for someone who loves you. Now, as sweet as that is, essentially, what I take away from this is that this is pretty much the premise of every Brat Pack movie that John Hughes made in the 1980s. Don't fight for someone to love you, fight for someone who loves you. That's, in all seriousness, I can think of so many scenarios either in real life, not mine necessarily, but other people that I've known. We've seen it play out in everything from Hallmark Christmas movies to TGIF sitcoms, you know, Disney movies. It's this type of thing has been portrayed in a number of different ways for it to resonate with a specific demographic of people. Because at some point, a lot of you can relate to the premise of putting everything into a person that just did not deserve to have that kind of attention and focus and effort from you. In your mind, they are the end all be all based on some degree of presentation. And then you start getting into the weeds and you start realizing I am in a toxic fucking dump. You know? And a lot of times that shit feels like quicksand, you know. But on the other hand, in some cases, the one that you were really supposed to be with, the missing piece of the puzzle, was right there in front of you all along. You couldn't see the barrage of bullshit. You couldn't see around it to see what was waiting right there in front of you as well. Now, life is a funny thing when it comes to relationships like that, you know? I mean, something like this it's not exclusive to like a romantic type of thing, but, you know, that's where it's going. That's where people find it most applicable. That's where a lot of people find this shit most applicable. You know, and make no mistake, I am no expert, man. I have fucked up more than anybody. Yeah, but what I will say is, you know, through everything, it finally put me on a path that I was supposed to be on. It just took me a long time to get there. And you know, so I can understand the second part of that, you know, fighting for someone who loves you. And when you have somebody who does love you and accepts you and all of that, it's that should be second nature. You fight for that. That is priority. No matter what, no matter who, no matter anything, that is priority. And if, you know, if you're looking at your relationship right now with your significant other, if that is not one of the first few thoughts that come to mind when you're talking about your relationship, you need to have a conversation like that. There is a very serious disconnect there. Number 5. Never think that the person of peace is not skilled at war. A lot of times, it is the battles, it is the scars, it is the experience, it is the aftermath of war that fuels that peace. As fucked up as that may sound. And I'm not, you know, we're not necessarily talking about out on the battlefield, like a legit war. Sometimes it's the war within. Sometimes it's the war within the relationships. Sometimes it's a war within your professional life. Sometimes it is a constant struggle to accept or find out who we are fundamentally as humans, and all of the bullshit that we had to endure through the course of our lifetimes. Some of which, you know, this is what people's entire existence is forged in. Their childhood, for as long as they can remember, the foundation of that was laid by bricks of betrayal and chaos and controversy and heartbreak and letdowns. Go right on down the goddamn line. There are people who will deal with situations one of two ways. And it's just one of two ways. They will allow all of that fuckery to steer them down a particular path, that is only going to lead to more of the same, only in deeper and higher levels. Drama, chaos, controversy. Or the other way is you're going to realize, you're going to recognize why this is a big ball of fuckery, and you are going to forge your own path going this way and not succumb to the current that is trying to take you down Skid Row, for lack of a better term. The people that take the ladder will be the strongest individuals you will ever meet. And on the surface, they will be the most calm and peaceful people you will ever meet. But that don't mean they ain't seen their time in a bunch of crap that ultimately helped forge who they are here and now, and why they understand more than most the importance of peace and calm, and will do anything to maintain that, because they no longer have any interest, need, or desire or energy to continuously be marred in drama and bullshit. Just a minute of anger or greed can destroy a lifetime of your hard work. Yeah. One wrong decision with the worst person. It's this one goes like a little bit too extreme. Like, well, yeah, that is a thing. I mean, but is that something that needs to be harped on in like an everyday type of conversation, at least on this list? Like, I don't know, that one. Well, I do agree with it. It just seems like it's I don't know, it's a little much. They need to calm it down a little bit. This one, though, this one is extremely relatable. The closer you get, the tougher it will get. You can go back and listen to a variety of episodes in my archives. And in some way or another, this has been expanded on, broken down, ripped apart, reanalyzed. I mean, the whole 9 yards. But it does bear repeating. It is worth repeating. Absolutely. This is when you know you're starting to gain traction. This is when you know you're starting to make headway. This is when you know you're getting close, or you are a hell of a lot closer than you were when you started. Like, there is a trail behind you, and a considerable one, because the challenges and the obstacles and the roadblocks are becoming tougher and more exhausting. And in some cases, they are going to include the last people you expected to be a part of it on this side of the equation. This is where you're going to start seeing people's true colors. This is where you're going to start seeing if your support team, your support staff, your cheerleaders are really there for you, or if they are there for ulterior motives. They're letting you do the grunt work, and they're fixing to swoop in and piggyback off of what you've done. This is what's going to test your resolve. This is what's going to test your patience. This is going to test whether or not this is something that really means something to you, or if you're just doing it for some sort of status type of thing. If the path to getting to your happiness or the better version of yourself, if that is not fueled by the absolute most genuine part of your heart and soul, you might as well get off the fucking train now. And it won't make a shit and bit of difference even if you do land that benchmark, because it will be for disingenuous reasons and it won't mean a fucking thing. And the part that you think it does mean something to, it's not genuine. It doesn't come from a genuine place. And if it's not genuine, it's not on solid ground. If it's not on solid ground, it is very susceptible to collapse with minimal effort. Be a damn shame to spend that kind of time working on something or building something or trying to accumulate something only to just have it taken right away from you in one fell swoop. Gone. Any lesson you refuse to learn will continue to find its way to you until you learn it. There's one dude that just heard that. I said this like 2 weeks ago in a conversation. Damn near, not word for word, but this was the premise. And I've said it on the show, like, people will continuously do the same thing with the same ill result and expect a different outcome. That, by definition, for those louder for those in the back, is insanity. It does not and it will not happen. We can try to dodge the bullet for the rest of our lives. Eventually, it will catch up. It will find its mark. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. That it will come back around. Nobody outsmarts the ultimate system. Just doesn't happen. So if it didn't work the first time, or the second or the third, it's time to change your approach. Figure out what it is that's happening, what's wrong. And sometimes, I know this is going to be difficult for some to hear. But let me tell you, it's going to be okay. You know why I know it's going to be okay? Because this is something I had to do myself. Some of you, in order to learn that lesson that's trying to instill itself in you, that you refuse or you can't see it or hear it or acknowledge it, absorb it, I'm going to give you a little bit of a life hack. All you got to do, if only for a brief block of time, is you're going to have to put your ego aside. I know. I should have had you sit down, for some of you, right? You're going to have to hit the pause button on your gimmick, on your persona. And you're going to have to, I'm not saying flush it down the toilet, calm down. I'm just saying put it off to the side for a minute and actually look at what's happening. Think about what's being said. Hear actually listen to what's being said. Because a lot of times when you actually focus and listen to what you are being told, therein lies is the solution to the conflict. But in order to grab a hold of that and to utilize that in the way that it needs to be, is you're going to have to accept personal responsibility and then admit any wrongdoing that you may have had in the equation. Because here's the thing, Jack. We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. That's what we do. But what we do, how we react when that happens, that is going to determine on some level your level of success. When you're able to put your ego aside and remember not who you are, but who you're working so hard to try to be. And if that's fueled exclusively by a public persona and it's not fueled by something within your heart and soul, you might as well just stop right fucking now. Save yourself and everybody else a whole hell of a lot of trouble. Effort, time. Sometimes fighting a war with yourself is a must to become a better version of you. And I've kind of alluded that a few times here. And it does come down to this. I can bottom line it like this. A lot of times when people really sit and think about why they're not happy, you ask them, what would make you happy? What does your happy place look like? How do you get there? What is it you want? What is it you want to do? Who do you want to be? You know what I get a lot of times? I don't know. To which my question is going to be, well, who knows? Who do I need to talk to figure out who you want to be? It comes down to this. In order for you to make any kind of significant growth, impact, trajectory forward, if you don't have a basic fundamental idea of who the fuck you are, you ain't going to go anywhere. Because who else is going to know who you want to be other than you? And why do you not know that? Because you've put too much time and effort into forming different presentations of yourself to those people in your life that you forgot who you are to your core. You know who has the biggest problem with this? I'm going to get real massive heat for this, but this is straight up. Professional wrestlers. They forget who the fuck they are because they have put so much stock into their persona, their public presentation of themselves. And when the day comes and the time comes that they are no longer able to be that character, they don't know what to do. They don't know who they are because they forgot about the reality part of this whole thing. I appreciate that, Dave. That's a splendid happy place full of guitars and pizza and tacos. I can certainly appreciate that, my friend. All right, finally on part one here. This will be the last one on part one. It's kind of timed this out not too bad, just over an hour. The longer you sit on the wrong train, the more expensive it will be to return home. The longer you sit on the wrong train, the more expensive it will be to return home. Man. I really appreciate the play on words here because it does, that paints a very descriptive picture. But at the second time reading that, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of these relationships. I'm thinking of scenarios and situations that either I was a part of or somebody I cared about was a part of, or, just it came across my radar in some regard. And it's absolutely true. And it's not necessarily a monetary thing. It's, the price we pay for keeping ourselves in a less than ideal situation. It takes a considerable amount out of us physically, mentally, emotionally, depending on the severity of the infraction. It's it fucks people up pretty bad, right? It's not what we would call a good situation. The word toxic can easily be applied here. Some people have that thought process that it'll get better. Sometimes I guess that is a thing. It is possible. It's not necessarily impossible. It's just not fucking likely. Very rarely can a situation be restored damn near to perfect status. This is one of those things where it's one of those reiterations that life is too short. And I understand. So sometimes when you get on that proverbial train, it doesn't stop. There's no opportunity to get off at the next station. It seems like it's just going a million miles an hour with no end sight, just like one big loop. There is no opportunity to get off that train. And the more time you spend on it, the longer you're on this thing, the more you're realizing the destination that it's ultimately heading to is not where you want to be. In fact, you want to be as far away from it as you possibly can. You want the brutal truth? It's going to hurt. It may leave a boo-boo or two. But you're going to have to jump off this motherfucker. You're just going to have to. It's scary. Yep, 100%. You land wrong, you're going to get hurt. Yep, 100%. But you got to, you've really, sometimes when you go through the thorns to get to the rose, you're absolutely landing in the middle of the motherfuckers. That's the part that sucks. But it's going to make that rose smell ever so much sweeter once you do get there. Let me see what our good friend Dave is over here typing about. Dave pops up on every live stream that we do, primarily the Sports Reel podcast on Wednesday nights with Tim Sheridan, and some of the shit comes up with is good stuff here. So let me read through these real quick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay. That was 10 of these little things here, these little gimmicks, as it were. Next week we will do part 2 of this and tackle the last half of this list. You know, I really feel like, you know, some of this can be I'm going to go ahead and put that one up there. It takes a ton of shit to make a sweet smelling rose. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So yeah, okay. So we're going to go ahead and start winding this episode down. We'll tackle part 2 of this next week. Given the opportunity, it could very well be another live stream edition. If you haven't done so already, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and get notified every time we go live. With this show, earlier we did the Fatal 4-Way, generally on ONTV, but we did it on Riverside here. And then every week you get the Sports Reel podcast with myself and Tim Sheridan. And so there we break down the world of sports. Check out the online store over at pfcstore.printify.me or summer lineup of PFC's summer.printify.me. With that, I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Go out, be awesome to yourselves and to each other, and we'll see you next week. Right here on the Clouse to the Heart podcast, the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network.